Good evening. You are watching Volume 2 of the Paranormal Archives here on Ghosts on the Coast. Unlike the last time we did one of these, tonight we're going to take a look at some of our best photographic evidence that was captured before we started Ghosts on the Coast and even before Haunted Travels was started in 2013. We're going way back. Some of these are from 2011, others are more recent, but these are some of the best pictures we've ever taken. Now, we've been doing this for about 5 or 6 years. We've taken hundreds, if not thousands of pictures during all these investigations. And you'll see we actually have a very small sample tonight of 6 or 7 pictures. That's because that's how rare it is to get something that is actually paranormal on camera. We take 100 pictures during an investigation. You'd be lucky if there's even one that is something you cannot prove to be either human error or something causing something to look like a paranormal entity on camera. Now, this first picture we're going to look at tonight was taken in 2011 by yours truly, and this was in the proprietary house basement. During this time, we always had experiences with shadow people. Now, Brett and I worked there for about 4 years, and that was the one thing that was always a constant, was dealing with these shadow-like figures that they're kind of, as I'm sitting here now, human-sized figures, only no noticeable characteristics except just being a dark black mass. Now you're going to see this picture of what we used to see with our own eyes, and it's pretty amazing that it showed up on camera, of one of the shadow people, almost as if it's standing with hands at its sides. You can even see a little bit of a head up top. And let's take a look at that one right now. That picture is one of the best ones we've ever taken. Personally, I think that's my favorite, just because we always told stories there about the shadow people and the shadow figures, and people kind of laughed at that. Oh, what do you mean shadow figure? It sounds like something you'd see in a horror movie. And then to actually get a picture of something that looks exactly like what we saw, that was a pretty big deal for us, and even today remains one of the best pictures we've ever taken. Now, the next 3 we're going to show you the first 2, then we're going to cut, and I have to explain the third one a little bit. These come from one of our co-investigators, Carla Balduini, also in the proprietary house basement, actually the room across the hallway from the last one we showed you. And the first 2, they're both, actually all 3 are shot with infrared cameras, so they're kind of bluish white, and that's because of the whole night vision thing. The first 2 are blurry in a way that it would be if you shook your camera back and forth while taking the picture. You'll notice squares on the wall. Those are picture frames, and some of them are kind of doubled and all wacky all over the place. And the thing is, she was not shaking the camera when she took these. Now, I remember that night very well because it was the first time we all investigated that place together, and she was standing perfectly still when she took these 3 pictures. There were probably 100, if not 200 pictures taken that night, and these are the only 3 that came out like this, all taken in quick succession of one another, and all in the same room, looking at the same wall. So let's take a look at the first 2, and then the third one we're going to get to contains an anomaly that to this day no one can explain. Now this third picture from Carla, as you're going to see in a few seconds, contains an anomaly that no one has ever been able to come up with an explanation for. Sent it to a couple camera experts we know. I've shown it off at lectures with skeptics in the audience, and even if they don't believe in ghosts, they still cannot explain what this is. Now when you take a look at it, I want you to keep in mind there was no flash on the camera, obviously, because it was a night vision camera, and there were also no lights on in the room to cause what you'll see is a beam of light streaking across the screen. Even if it's not paranormal, which, again, all of this is kind of open to interpretation, even though I believe and everybody on our team believes. But if it's not paranormal, I challenge the skeptic to step forward who has a knowledge of cameras to tell me what this is. And if they can explain that it's not paranormal, it's just whatever an anomaly with the camera or whatever was in the room, that'd be perfectly fine. I'd believe it. But it's something that's so strange. It's really one of the only pictures we have that we've never been able to totally know what to do with, whether we're trying to debunk it or prove it. Now let's take a quick look at this one. We'd like to thank Carla for sending us those pictures, again taken 2013 at the proprietary house. Very intriguing stuff. Coming up next, is a picture I took. This one is at Chapel Hill Cemetery, 2013. You'll notice that one of our co-investigators is standing next to a gravestone, but if you look close enough, just above the gravestone, there might be a shadow lurking above our friend's shoulder. Now, some people think that the shadow lurking above our friend's shoulder is actually just a gravestone or a glare of the gravestone, but we checked, because as investigators we like to take at least 2 or 3 pictures every time we photograph a certain angle. So if I was taking a picture of somebody next to a gravestone, I would take it 3 times, and that picture is the only one for that to come up. Nothing is ever 100% in the paranormal field, but these pictures that we're showing you, we are pretty sure that they are legit. And on that investigation, that was pretty much the only scary thing that happened. If you listen to our podcast, you'll have heard the story about the deer that jumped out and scared the hell out of us when we were driving around. But other than that, that picture at Chapel Hill Cemetery, Middletown, was the only thing we got in that investigation. Second to last on our list here, this is from the Spy House in 2010. I took this picture. This is a cropped version. The original picture is of the whole back of the Spy House. This is just the one window where we happen to spot something. All of these pictures will be made available on our Facebook, and they're already up on my website for you to check out. Now, take a look at this picture here. You'll notice there is something in the window. Should not be there. This was right before or right after the Monmouth County Park System bought the Spy House. So there was nothing in the house, no furniture, was completely empty. Take this picture, and I don't want to say it's a floating head in the window, but that's what people have compared it to. There is a head-like object in the window with no body, and there is a reddish-orange tint on it. And that is because up towards probably the left of where this thing was, there is an emergency light shining red, which is why the thing is illuminated. Took a lot of pictures of that side of the house. This is the only one, turn up anything. I was giving a lecture there a few months after I had showed this picture off. Bruce Tango, who is Dave Tango's dad from the TV show Ghost Hunters, he came to the lecture, he saw the picture, he did a walk around the house, and he too told me that there's nothing in there that could have caused this. No objects, nothing that should have caused the reflection of the light, no reason for any object of this shape to have been there. Now let's take a look. Now this next picture is actually not something paranormal. And the reason why we wanted to end with a non-example is because we want to show you just how rigorous the process is in trying to determine if something is paranormal, and how if we become too excited, sometimes we let the emotions get the better of ourselves. Picture was taken in 2014 by Lou Fligger, who is a Ghost on the Coast team member and also a longtime volunteer at Strauss Mansion. This is the best picture ever. And when you see it, if you saw it without my explanation, you'd be flabbergasted. It was amazing, right? It's the only way to put it. We were all there when he took it. We saw him take it. And then when he showed us on the screen, we all got very excited. What you're going to see in a few seconds is the picture of me standing at a table and one of our co-investigators at the time sitting on a couch. And right above him, you're going to see a stream of light above his head and then a floating head above him. Now, when we cut to the actual picture, I'm going to read what our photo analyst, Carly Venner, wrote. She's the one that took a look at the actual file and determined it wasn't paranormal, and she was so concerned that we have this information. She actually wanted to see the file to prove it to be true, because she was blown away by the picture. We had put it on Facebook, which we probably should have waited and looked at it again. But we put it on Facebook. She said, wow, this is amazing. Send me the file, because I want to be able to give you the technical specs. That way, if somebody questions the picture, we know and we can prove it to be true. As it happened, she took a look at the picture and she determined it to be a non-paranormal entity. And it was actually our co-investigator. His head somehow got superimposed at the top. Now, I'm going to leave it to her explanation to explain why, because she goes into really good detail. But this was just an example of us thinking we found the Holy Grail. Got really excited, posted it, everybody loved it, nobody questioned it. And even though the face at the top looks just like the face of our co-investigator, We just did a seance. We contacted the spirit of a young man, and here it is, the face of a young man floating in the air. It was too good to be true, and as we always say, if it's too good to be true, it's probably not. So let's take a look at the picture. We'll read Carly's explanation, and then we'll take a look at a picture she sent us where she lightened everything up and was able to then explain to us what exactly happened with this photograph. I deconstructed the picture and found the settings on the properties, Carly said to us in 2014. It looks like Lou took this with a Nikon D90 at a focal length of 21mm, aperture of 3.8, ISO of 1600, and here's the important part, a shutter speed of 2.5 seconds. That is a long time to have a shutter open. All of my night photography is done to ensure no camera shake. That means the camera is on a tripod and I use a wireless remote to hit the shutter. Even the act of pressing the shutter will take your camera enough to do that. Now, the investigator was sitting there for 2.5 seconds while this photo was happening. He blinked. I was able to copy the ghost face and drag it down in front of the investigator and then process the image. I desaturated, lightened, added contrast, and changed the hue. I made it so you can actually see your face, meaning mine. Now I figured since we know you are in the scene, that is an accurate filter. Your face is the gauge. Now if you look over at the investigator and the ghost face, you can clearly see it's him in a long exposure camera shake. Next time we will do it with zero shake, wireless shutter release, and tripod for stabilization. I'm sure there are things there, but in my opinion, this one is your co-investigator. There's moving orbs that are still unexplained, but you have to have control over everything to ensure the data is accurate. Lou's camera settings were key. Had it been a snapshot at 1/1000th or 1/100th of a second or similar, and you still got that effect, there would be something else in the frame. But since the shutter was open that long, you get the movement of you, the co-investigator, and Lou's hands. Well, isn't that something, that picture there? We got to thank Carly. Even though it kind of ruined our day, every time I give a lecture on the paranormal, I always stick that picture in just so people know what we go through. And I think it helps our credibility a little bit to just show some non-examples there. It's very disappointing, but it's also very fascinating that that is how a camera works and how so many different factors can go into just one tiny push of a button can cause a whole stir, a whole special, almost like a special effect in this one picture. Well, that's going to do it tonight for Volume 2 of the Paranormal Archive, where we took a look at some of our best photographic evidence over the years. We would like to thank Carla Balduini, Lou Fligger, and Carly Venna for their contributions over the years to make this episode possible, for giving us the pictures, and also for Carly's fantastic analysis that really went on to help us out. Thank you for watching. I'm Greg Caggiano. Brett Bodner's behind the camera, and we'll see you next time.